It started subtly, just a single misplaced tile in the bathroom, a pattern I was certain had never been there before. A small hexagonal porcelain piece nestled amongst the familiar squares. It was there, staring back at me from the grout, a silent, impossible accusation. My name is David, and until a few weeks ago, my life was unremarkable in the most comforting way. I lived in an old house, a place I'd inherited from my grandparents, nestled on a quiet street lined with mature oaks. Every creak of the floorboards, every worn patch on the antique rug, every faded pattern on the wallpaper. They were all etched into my memory, part of the fabric of my existence. My mornings began with the familiar scent of brewing coffee, the soft murmur of the news, and the comforting knowledge that the world, at least my corner of it, was predictable, steadfast. I took pride in its unchanging nature, its solid, dependable reality. It was my sanctuary, a constant in a world that often felt chaotic. But then came the tile, and after the tile, other things. I dismissed the bathroom tile as a trick of the light, or perhaps my own poor memory. We all misremember things, don't we? A fleeting detail, easily forgotten. But then, a few days later, I reached for my favorite blue coffee mug, the one with the chipped rim. Except it wasn't blue. It was a forest green, and the chip was gone. I stared at it, a cold knot forming in my stomach. I even went to the cupboard searching for the blue one. It wasn't there. It was just this green one, feeling perfectly at home amongst its ceramic brethren, as if it had always been that color, always been whole. I shook my head, convinced I was overtired, stressed. Work had been particularly demanding. The changes, small and insidious, began to accumulate. A book on my shelf, Moby Dick, I could swear it had a dark blue cover with a whale breaching. Now it was a plain, austere black volume. The antique clock on the mantelpiece, its face always a warm ivory, suddenly gleamed with a stark white, almost sterile finish. The furniture in the living room seemed to have shifted by mere inches. An armchair slightly closer to the fireplace, a lamp table angled differently. Each alteration was minor, plausible enough to be explained away as my own perception, my fading memory, my mind playing tricks. The feeling of unease began to grow, like a persistent hum beneath the surface of my awareness. I started to make notes, jotting down specific details, the exact number of steps from my bed to the bathroom door, the precise shade of paint on the kitchen wall, the specific placement of a crack in the plaster above the dining room window. I'd take photos with my phone, meticulously documenting the current state of things, determined to prove my sanity to myself. But every time I checked, the photos showed only the new reality. My notes from yesterday contradicted the current reality, turning into absurd, impossible lies on the page. The green mug was green in the photo I took yesterday. The black Moby Dick was black. I tried talking to friends, delicately, tentatively. Have you ever felt like things just subtly shift around you? I asked Sarah over coffee one afternoon. She looked at me with an odd concern, a hint of pity in her eyes. David, are you sleeping okay? You seem a little on edge. Their dismissals only deepened my isolation, making me question if I was truly losing my mind. Was this how it started? A slow descent into delusion, where the world became a fluid, unreliable canvas, painted by my own deteriorating thoughts. Then the changes began to extend beyond the walls of my home. My street, a place I'd walked almost daily for decades, began to offer up its own subtle distortions. The old oak tree at the corner, with its distinctive bifurcated trunk, was suddenly a sturdy, single-columned elm. The bakery, the Daily Crumb, where I bought my morning croissant every Saturday, had vanished, replaced by a dull, gray laundromat I'd never seen before. Its signage looked ancient, weathered, as if it had always been there. I drove past, slowing down, my heart pounding, an irrational fear gripping me. The bus stop, usually just past the corner, was gone. No sign of it, no weathered bench, just an unbroken stretch of pavement. The world outside my windows seemed to be breathing, expanding, contracting, shifting its internal logic. I'd stand at the window, looking out at the familiar rooftops and telephone wires, only to blink and feel a slight jolt, a new, unfamiliar spire on a distant building, or a section of fence that suddenly looked much taller, constructed from a different material. My own reflection in the glass would sometimes seem to lag, a split-second delay, or worse, show the room behind me subtly different from the one I knew was there. The silence of the house became oppressive, as if it was holding its breath, waiting for me to notice the next impossible detail. Every creak of the floorboards felt less like an old house settling, and more like a sigh, a slow, deliberate movement of something vast and unseen. I started sleeping with the lights on, not because I feared the dark, but because I feared what the morning light might reveal. The dread was a physical weight in my chest, a constant pressure, a knowledge that something was fundamentally, terrifyingly wrong, and I was the only one who saw it. One morning, I awoke with a gasp. My bedroom. It wasn't my bedroom. The familiar floral wallpaper was gone, replaced by rough gray bricks, cold and unyielding. My mahogany dresser was a simple metal locker. The window, where I usually saw the comforting branches of the oak tree, now looked out onto a landscape utterly alien. Geometric structures, impossible angles, stretched into a horizonless expanse under a sky of swirling, bruised purples and deep, unnatural blues. The air outside seemed to shimmer, as if the very fabric of reality was being stretched thin. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum against the backdrop of this silent, impossible world. This wasn't a subtle shift, a minor alteration. This was a complete, terrifying replacement. And the most chilling part? It felt solid, real, as if it had always been this way. I am here now, in this place, a place that remembers me, but is not mine. The world I knew, the comforting reality I took for granted, is gone, replaced by a grotesque mimicry that feels both solid and profoundly wrong. And the true terror is the creeping doubt. Was there ever an original reality? Or have I simply woken up to what has always been, the only one to notice the true, shifting, impossible nature of things? Sleep well tonight. And perhaps, just perhaps, take a moment to truly look at your surroundings, at the color of that mug, the pattern on that tile, the tree outside your window. Are you absolutely certain they haven't changed? Because in the dark, silent corners of existence, reality sometimes has a way of fraying at the edges, slowly, quietly, until the familiar becomes utterly, horrifyingly alien. If these dark stories unsettle you as much as they do me, consider subscribing to Dark Stories and joining our community of truth seekers. Until next time, stay safe and stay vigilant.